Hello friends, today we're going to discuss about registration of medical practitioners and license to practice medicine regulation under National Medical Commission Act of 2019. I am Dr. Suresh Badadmat, Professor of Psychiatry, working at National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences, Bangalore. In this video, I'll be discussing about registration of medical practitioner and how does it differ from license to practice medicine and the important regulation, that is registration of medical practitioners and license to practice medicine regulations 2023, which was notified under National Medical Commission Act. Let's understand the Constitution of India and how the health and education is divided. As soon as we got our independence, the Constitution of India was drafted. When it was drafted, both the education and the health was under state list, that is list 2. Education was entry number 11, health was entry number 6. That means the power to make rules and regulation and legislation was under state. However, the 42nd Amendment of the Constitution, which occurred in 1976, passed this education into concurrent list, that is entry number 25. Now, the education is under concurrent list, my dear friends. Health continues to be under the state subject. Education is under the concurrent list. Now, medical education can be drafted by the center and also by the state. However, if there is a conflict between the state and center, the center law prevails over the state law. That means the National Medical Commission Act prevails over the state. However, with regard to health, the question arises whether the state has the power or the central. The National Medical Commission Act 2019 is a comprehensive legislation with regard to medical education, medical institutions, and medical profession. To somewhere, the health is also affected by the availability of the medical profession and also the quality of medical profession. The state may want to claim the NMC is coming in the way of their powers. But however, the National Medical Commission Act 2019 has given autonomy to the state also. Many of the states already are aligning with the NMC. Hardly there are 1 or 2 states are against this National Medical Commission Act. But, my dear friends, the National Medical Commission Act has its lot of strengths and also minor weaknesses. Now, moving further, the National Medical Commission Act 2019 was signed by the President on 8th of August 2019. Here, there are very important definitions with regard to the regulations. Let's understand what does the NMC Act says. License means license to practice medicine, which is given by the state. Whereas registration means one-time registration done by the EMRB board at the National Medical Commission, my dear friends. That means there will be a national register which is made by the and maintained by the EMRB NMC, and there is a state register maintained by the state medical councils, my dear friends. So, license to practice is different, registration is different. Registration is one time done by the EMRB NMC, whereas license to practice is done by the State Medical Council. Now, let's understand what is this National and State Register. The EMRB, that is Ethics and Medical Registration Board, maintains the National Register. SMC will be the State Register. EMRB shall maintain an electronic synchronization of the National Register and the State Register. If there is any changes which occurs at the State Register, will be depicted at the National Register. That means any doctor who wants to practice in India needs to get registered at the National Medical Commission through EMRB by online application. Once you get the permanent registration number, with that number you need to apply to the states wherever you want to practice. Suppose you want to practice in Karnataka or Kerala, maybe Kashmir, you can apply to those state medical council. Now, the license to practice is very clear. Any person who qualifies national exit test shall be granted a license to practice medicine, but they need to apply to the specific medical council to get that license. Bar to practice. No person other than a person who is enrolled in a state register or the national register, as the case may be, will be allowed to practice medicine in this country. Now, the National Medical Commission Act 2019 gives power to NMC to make regulation for registration of medical practitioner and license to practice medicine. This is conferred under the Section 57, my dear friends. Hence, the registration of medical practitioners and license to practice medicine regulation 2023 was drafted and notified. Let's understand the process of national examination. Then only you will be able to understand this regulation. Before you start doing your MBBS, you need to qualify NEET exam. And there will be a common counseling where you will be allotted the MBBS seat and you will start your MBBS career. Or else once you qualify, you can go abroad to do UG, that is undergraduation. Once you finish your final MBBS, you need to take next one exam, that is National Exit Exam 1. Once you pass that, you will be allowed to do internship in India. Once you finish internship, that is over a period of 1 year, you need to take next exam 2. This next exam 2 will give you permanent registration, and this next 2 exam will be also the exam for qualifying PG seats. Based upon the merit, a common counseling will be held and the PG seats will be given. And also, as I mentioned, permanent registration occurs. Here one need to understand, immediately after the next one, there will be a provisional registration, and after next 2, permanent registration. How this is done under National Medical Commission? This registration is done under the Ethics and Medical Registration Board of NMC. Hence, this regulation, which was notified on 10th May of 23, was done by Ethics and Medical Registration Board. This registration of medical practitioners and license to practice medication regulations 2023 has 4 chapters and 13 sections. What are those 4 chapters? The first chapter is preliminary. Second one is provisional registration for internship training. Third one is registration in National Medical Register for license to practice. And finally, temporary registration to the foreign medical practitioners. Let's go through each one of this chapter. The first clause is a short title and the commencement. Second clause talks about the chapter 1, the definitions. Here, certain definition you need to understand. Additional qualifications. After your primary qualification, that is MBBS, any other qualifications which are recognized by NMC, if the medical practitioner completes and which is recognized by the NMC Postgraduate Medical Education Board, those qualification will be entered against the name of the practitioner. Here again, one more definition, foreign medical graduate. The foreign medical graduate is very specific. He should be an Indian citizen who has qualified to practice modern medicine or allopathic system of medicine, has currently recognized primary medical qualification by the National Medical Commission from an university or institutions overseas, but does not have a primary medical qualification from an Indian university or Indian medical college or Indian institution. Basically, it says an Indian citizen who has done MBBS abroad. Next, another important definition is sponsored foreign medical practitioner. Shall mean a medical practitioner of a foreign country who has been sponsored for temporary registration in India. What is the sponsor and supervisor? The sponsor and supervisor shall be a registered medical practitioner having a valid unique identification number and have license to practice in India. Here, imagine if an association, a medical college, or a hospital wants to do symposium or maybe a training program. A foreign practitioner would like to come and train our students in India. In such a scenario, a sponsorer, that is, a registered medical practitioner, can sponsor them and apply for provisional registration of this foreign doctor for provisional registration so that he can come and do this training by doing certain procedures on Indian patients. The other one is temporary registration. Shall mean that registration of a foreign medical practitioner who has been granted temporary registration for a specific purpose in India and for a specific period of time. You need to differentiate between provisional registration and temporary registration. Provisional is for doing internship. Temporary is for various purposes like maybe symposium, maybe community work, maybe doing NGO work in India. For that purpose, the temporary registration is given. Now let's go into Chapter 2, Provisional Registration. That is Section 3, which talks about any person who has passed the qualifying examination of a university or a medical institution in India for the grant of recognized medical qualification shall be entitled to be registered provisionally for the purpose of internship training, and an application shall be made for provisional registration to the concerned state medical council. What does that mean? It means very simple. A person who has finished his MBBS will apply to state medical council for provisional registration so that he can do internship. Earlier, there was no provisional registration. A doctor who has finished his MBBS, but when he is doing internship, he does not have any registration. There were many complaints against these interns, but the medical council never took the complaint because they are not registered. They are still the students. Hence, this regulation clearly talks about provisional registration for the interns. Further, it also talks about provisional registration for foreign medical graduates. For foreign medical graduates, they need to qualify the next one exam and also fulfill the Foreign Medical Graduate Licensate Regulation 2021. I have made a separate video. Please visit my YouTube channel. Go through that important regulation with regard to Foreign Medical Graduate Licensate Regulation. And once they are fulfilling, they can apply to the State Medical Council for provisional registration. They will also allot the college for internship. Chapter 3 talks about registration in National Medical Register. Section 4 clearly says any person who obtains primary medical qualification and also has finished his internship and qualified National Exit Test 2 will be entitled for permanent registration in National Medical Register. And this is a one-time registration, my dear friends. Similarly, foreign medical graduates need to fulfill the FMG Regulation 2021 and also next 2 exam. And then once they finish this, they need to apply through EMRB of National Medical Commission online, and then the EMRB will give unique ID which will be permanent for lifelong. And this unique ID will be having some processing fee which will be charged by EMRB. And this National Medical Register will be maintained by the NMC, and this need to be synchronized online with the State Medical Register. This National Medical Register is a public document and should be available online for the public so that they know who are the doctors, whether they are registered or not, what specialty, what is their identity, from which medical college, what are their specialty, year of passing, will be depicted online, my dear friends. This is a landmark decision taken by National Medical Commission. Now, the license to practice medicine. There will be online application through EMRB portal where eligible person, that means who has finished his MBBS, passed next 1 and 2 and also finished his internship, will apply for permanent registration. Once he gets the permanent registration, that person will be called as eligible person. He can apply to any state or any number of states to practice medicine. License will be applied. And those states, based upon their requirements and also based upon the regulation with the state legislation, they will give license to practice. And by chance, State Medical Council does not respond within 30 days. That means, by default, they will be considered as they have been given license. Further, the certificate of license shall contain a unique registration which is given by NMR, that is under National Medical Registration, and then there will be a code for each state. That means if I have a unique identify number as a doctor from the permanent registration of National Medical Registration, and if I apply to Karnataka, there will be a code for Karnataka that will be suffixed along with the unique ID. And if I have 2 or 3 licenses, those will be suffixed. On approval of application by the SMC, that will be reflected in the National Medical Register, my dear friend, telling that this doctor is practicing in one state or 2 or more states. Registration of additional qualification. If the doctor or the RMP who is registered under the National Register and he does additional qualification which are approved by the PG Medical Education Board of NMC, those qualification will be written against the name and it will be approved and uploaded in the NMR, my dear friends. There are many questions. Many of our graduates or maybe postgraduates do their fellowship abroad. Can they be suffixed? No, unless those fellowships, those qualifications are approved by PG board, then only they will be uploaded. Otherwise, they will be considered not approved by the NMC. Although this can be considered as a criticism, but you need to understand, many of our PG qualifications are not approved by many countries, and many of these postgraduate training are rigorous in India and also to the top notch, and many countries do not recognize. Hence, this reciprocity has been played an important role. However, some of the countries post-graduation is already been recognized by PG Medical Education Board. For this, you need to visit National Medical Commission website to know which are those postgraduates which are approved by PG Medical Education Board. Unless they are approved, those additional qualifications cannot be entered against the name and you cannot use this even in your prescription. Now, the important things comes is renewal of license to practice. Every registration and license to practice, although the registration is for life, license to practice is every 5 years you need to renew. If you do not renew, then that license will be considered as inactive. Suppose if you want to renew, you need to renew 3 months before the license expires. Suppose if you don't renew at all, it can be penalty and also they may ask you to do certain courses. However, it is not clear. The 9th one says transfer of license to practice. This clause 9 appears to be in contradictory with the others. The reason being is, if you are practicing in Karnataka or any other state, you want to move to another state, you need to take NOC is the word which has been mentioned. Unfortunately, the National Medical Commission Act and also it is very clear you can practice any part of the country. However, you need to take license to practice. A single doctor who is working at the border, especially in Delhi, he can practice in Haryana, he can practice in Punjab or Uttar Pradesh, or you may be in Uttarakhand. That means a single doctor can practice in 4 or 5 states. Nowadays, there are many qualified doctors who fly for weekend and do important procedures. That means single doctor can practice in various states. Unfortunately, this clause 9 comes in the way. That means every time you move from one state to another state, you have to take NOC. That is what is clause 9. Most probably, this clause will be deleted. And This appears to be an error in this regulation. Now, the clause 10 talks about removal and restoration of registration. If the name of an RMP is removed because of the ethical violation, or else by the court order, or by the EMRB order or NMC order, it can be restored. And it is restored by the state means it automatically will be reflected in the NMR, my dear friends. And there is a transitory provision, clause 11, until the national register is done online. Till then, whatever the state legislation will continue to prevail, my dear friends. And by chance, if you are already registered in the State Medical Council, the EMRB at the national level will give you unique ID without any charges for updation either by the state or by the EMRB. Now, if there is a denial to license to practice is done, if the application of a candidate for granting of license by the SMC is rejected, then he can appeal to EMRB of National Medical Commission within 30 days of rejection. Appeal will be done to NMC. The secretary will look into the application and order of the SMC will also have to be uploaded. They will look into that, and a written application containing the grounds for SMC's rejection. Based upon that, the application will be forwarded to EMRB, and EMRB will give stay for that, and the appeal will be continued, and EMRB will listen to the registered medical practitioner. Based upon that, the EMRB will give decision. If again the EMRB gives a decision against the RMP, the registered medical practitioner can apply to NMC, National Medical Commission. That is within 60 days. NMC will decide the fate of the registered medical practitioner. Chapter 4, that is section 13, talks about temporary registration of the foreign medical practitioner. What does it mean here? A foreign citizen who is enrolled in his country as a medical practitioner on being sponsored to our country, that is in India, to practice medicine, can be permitted for temporary registration. For pursuing PG and super speciality, there are many Nepali doctors or also Sri Lankan doctors, maybe even various other countries would like to do post-graduation, super speciality in India. When they do PG, they need to apply for temporary registration. That is, individual need to apply. They need to pass the exam. That is, the next two, they need to qualify. They need to provide visa. And also all these things had to be submitted to NMC. NMC will look into their next two and also the visa. And looking into the individual cases, they will give temporary registration for the post-graduation requirement. If certain students wants to pursue fellowship, certificate course or clinical research, clinical training or observership, this if it is in person and they apply to the institute, that institute will apply to NMC for temporary registration. And this registration will be given maximum for 12 months only. Once it is granted, there will be a cooling period for 1 year, and again after 1 year they can apply. Here, it has to be recognized by the institute. Third one, the expert visit. A foreign medical practitioner who wants to do providing training or maybe techniques, procedures which has to be done to the Indian doctors. That means such as seminar, conference, symposia, workshop. In such a scenario, the sponsorer or the organizers of this conference, who should be a registered medical practitioner, will apply to the NMC. And the NMC will grant the temporary registration for that period of the conference for limited time and for the specific place only. And finally, voluntary clinical services or community services. There are many doctors who are licensed to practice abroad. They are not been licensed in India, and they want to do community services. in such a scenario, they want to come and work in India. In such a scenario, the temporary registration can be given. Here again, wherever they are going to work in a community or maybe an NGO, the sponsorer will be a registered medical practitioner or a medical college or a hospital where a RMP is in charge, will apply to the NMC, and again, the registration will be given maximum for 12 months with a cooling period of 1 year. That means they cannot do continuously work for 2 years. 1 year they can do work and 1 year there is a cooling period. Again, they can come after 1 year. This is for community services, my dear friend. Let's critique this regulation. What are the positive aspects? There is a clear distinction between registration of medical practitioner and license to practice medicine. It is well balanced in a federal structure. That is, autonomy is given to state medical council. Although National Medical Commission wants to give complete license across the India, but however, many state medical council wants to have autonomy and also power over these doctors who are functioning within the state. Hence, the National Medical Commission Act has done a very fine balancing act. NMC gives a unique ID for registration and SMC will give license to practice. There are adequate timelines and online transaction have been clearly made available. The negative aspects are why there is a registration of NMC and also license to practice. Of course, many doctors have raised this question. This is basically under the federal structure, state medical council has to be given autonomy and hence there is registration and license to practice. Although clause number 9, which talks about transfer of license to practice from one state to another state, this is completely is an error and this will be deleted completely and it will be done at the earliest because this clause 9 is against the National Medical Commission Act. The actual clause 6 talks about grants of license to practice medicine. The eligible person is to practice medicine, license to practice in state or states. That means a single doctor can apply for license to practice in many states. Hence, clause 9 becomes invalid. Transfer of license from one state to another state does not hold good. To conclude, my dear friends, registration of doctor at NMC is both provisional is there, that is for internship, and permanent once he finishes next 2 exam. License to practice is given by state medical councils. Foreign medical graduates also has been given clear demarcation telling that they need to finish next 1 and next 2 for permanent registration. And for foreign doctors, temporary registration has also been clearly defined. Online application for license has been done and it will be looked after by the EMRB of National Medical Commission. And all these applications will be made available online and will be applied online. Timelines are well established and either the SMC does not respond, that will be deemed to be license to practice, my dear friends. So this is about this registration of medical practitioner and license to practice in India. Thank you very much for your valuable time. Stay safe.